Hello, everyone. So nice to see everyone. Beautiful people joining us. That's wonderful. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for joining us. This session, we're going to be dealing with sight translation. So I'm very excited about that. We're going to be applying the third step, the three-step method to sight translation. But before we do that, let me go ahead and share my screen. And let me share my presentation. Awesome. Let's go full screen. Beautiful. Okay. So as I mentioned, today we're going to be talking about Interpretrain's three-step method. Our main goal is going to be to empower you to study smart. So some logistics, you are all muted. We're trying to avoid all the noises that we have when we have a big group. Somebody's dog is barking, somebody's neighbor is playing bachata, there's a siren going by, so we're going to try to avoid all that. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the chat to communicate with each other. If you guys have any troubleshooting issues, there was an email that we sent out that you guys can check out. You can also go online and check out how to troubleshoot stuff on Zoom. Hopefully we won't have any issues. The material that we're going to be sharing with you is only going to be available during class. And I ask that you be present, that you shut off all distractions. So if you can close the door, shut off your phone, don't have any beeps or alerts going off, just use this time to concentrate and to truly, truly, truly be here. I would like to get to know this group a little better. So if you guys could use the chat, let me know which languages you speak other than English. Do we have anybody? Spanish, mostly Arabic, awesome. Spanish, Portuguese, French, Portuguese, Italian, French, cool. Oh, awesome. And more Arabic, Spanish and Portuguese, Spanish. Ooh, American Sign Language, that's great. German, awesome. I'm so happy to see such a diverse group. That's great. Now, where are you joining us from? I'm in Seaside, California. How about you guys? Cairo, Los Angeles, Hawaii, Phoenix, Gainesville, Florida. Oh, I lived in Gainesville, Istanbul. Oh, Monterey, Tucson. Awesome. Algeria, how wonderful. Someone's from Virginia, my namesake. Great. Somebody's from New Jersey, my old playground. San Diego, Charlotte, Philadelphia, Guatemala, Chicago. Oh, that's awesome, you guys. Manhattan, Arizona, Tennessee. Cool. Welcome, everyone. And then finally, two last things I want to ask you guys about. I want to ask you about your fields that you practice in. Let's start with court interpreters. Do we have anybody who works in the legal field? Court, immigration, court, immigration. Beautiful. Court, legal, immigration. Okay, let's move on to those of you who work in the medical field. Do we have any medical interpreters here? Okay, we have a few. Awesome. Conference in medical. Cool. Group therapy. Huh, interesting. Education. Cool. Okay. Somebody's asking, will this webinar have a replay, please? We're going to be offering you guys a video, definitely, at the end of this. Okay, let's talk about conference interpretation. Do we have any conference interpreters here today? Yes, JC, cool. Joy, awesome. We have a few conference interpreters. Okay, how about community interpreters? Do we have any community interpreters? Community, cool. You guys do such awesome work. Great. And I know I mentioned educational. Are there any other fields that I haven't mentioned yet? Okay, so Glenda is asking what a community interpreter does. Does any community interpreter want to use the chat and let us know what it is that a community interpreter does? Is there a certification for it? It's like a social worker. Okay, so you're interpreting for different interviews from social working or intervention for social services. public aid, social security, refugee agencies, like for example, Child Protective Services. Ooh, awesome. Okay, cool. All right. And finally, let's talk about the amount of time that you've been interpreting. So we're going to go from 0 experience to 6 months. Go ahead and use the chat. Tell me if you fall into that group. From 0 experience to 6 months. Do we have anybody? Ooh, cool. A few people. Great, great, awesome. 6 months, medical. Okay, now let's go to 6 months to 2 years. Do we have anybody that fits into the 6 months to 2 years category? Legal, 2 years. Cool. Now let's go people who have from 2 to 5. Do we have anybody? 2 to 5? A few people, 2 to 5. Awesome. Now how about 5 to 10? That's me. I've been interpreting, well, actually, no, I've been interpreting for 13 years, but let's hear the 5 to 10s. Ooh, we have a few seasoned interpreters here with us. Very good. Now we're going to do 10 to 15. That's my category. I've been interpreting, no, it's still not yet. I've been interpreting for 17 years. So do we have anybody 10 to 15? Yes, we do have a few. 13 years. Ooh, time flies when you're having fun. And then let's do 15 to 20, which is finally my category. 15 to 20, I've been interpreting for 17 years, 20 years, very good. Do I hear anybody more than 20 years? 35 years plus, JC, that's impressive. 30 years plus, wow. Do I hear 35 years? Let's see if anybody has been doing this for more than 35 years. Ooh, JC, ooh, that's great. And Leslie also, good job, you guys. Do I have anybody above 40 or is that our cutoff? 35 years, that's impressive, you guys.
Virginia, this is Brad, the manager.
Yes.
And I'm just curious, do we have anyone who's interpreted
45.
over 100 years?
We might have some vampires out there. We've been
Some
interpreting
Transylvanian
Yeah, yeah. And if you're a vampire, you can pick up many languages along the way. You stop telling at 35. I like that. Okay. All right, you guys. That's awesome. So today, as I mentioned before, we're going to be talking about sight translation. So of course, we're going to be talking about how to apply Interpretrain's 3-step method to sight translation. The first method is to learn the vocabulary. The second method is to do the interpretation. And the third message is to do the evaluation. Can somebody tell me why the first thing that we're going to do is learn the vocabulary up front? Can somebody use the chat to let me know why is the vocabulary the very first thing we tackle? How does that help us when we do the interpretation? Very good, Antonio. It won't mess up your flow. It doesn't trip you up. So you don't panic. So you have a better flow. Perfect. Very good. So you have no surprises. It's a building block approach. Very good. So the very, very, very first thing you're going to be doing when you're going to be applying the 3-step method, the 3-step method, is you're going to be finding the vocabulary ahead of time. You're going to be able to spot which vocab is tricky for you. Then you're going to be drilling that vocabulary. If you're working with our materials, we have tools for you to do that. And we're going to be using our material today. And then if you are not using our material, of course, you're going to spot the vocabulary in the written text. Of course, we're talking about sight translation, so it's a written document. So then you spot the vocabulary, you research it, you drill it. When you feel comfortable with that vocabulary, then you jump into the interpretation. Okay, so first we want to make sure the vocabulary is out of the way. Now, once we go into the interpretation, what is the trick? Last time we talked about it, there's a show business expression. Once you're on stage,
the show must go on.
You must breathe. Very good, Brad. Thank you. The show must go on. Once it's showtime, the show must go on. So when you're interpreting, whether it's in real life or whether you're studying, if you're studying, you're going to voice record yourself. And when you begin, you don't stop. There's no second takes. If you make a mistake, you say interpreter correction and you move on, okay? And then finally, you're going to take that recorded rendition, if you've been studying, and you're going to evaluate your work. What is the importance of evaluating your interpretation? Who can use the chat to tell me why is the 3rd step important? to know where you are, to learn from your mistakes, to strengthen your weaknesses. It's an essential measuring process. Very good. To eat your own soup. Yes. I talk about tasting your own soup. When you're cooking, you have to taste what you're cooking. So last time we talked about how there's so much going on in our brains when we interpret that it is impossible for you to also be evaluating your performance. There is no way you're going to know, objectively speaking, how well you did during your interpretation, during steps 2, until you go to step 3 and you listen to yourself. It is then that you're going to catch all your little nuances. You're going to be able to identify your strengths and, most importantly, your areas that need development. So step 3 is crucial. And we talked about how to get a numerical score. Since we spotted the vocabulary ahead of time, we have an amount of vocabulary that we're working with. So that allows us to get a score. And it's going to be a calculation. Let's say if there were 20 scoring units in total, 20 vocabulary units that we chose ahead of time, we're going to say I got 16 right. You do the math, 16 over 20, and you get a score. It's very important to get a score so you know where you stand. So these are basically the 3-step method that you can apply with any mode of interpretation. Today we're going to be talking about sight translation, which of course, as I said, is with a written document. Okay, so as I said, sight translation is the name of the game. And I'm going to teach you guys how to do another part of the 3-step method. This is something that pertains specifically to sight translation. Okay, when it comes to sight translation, we're going to do these things step by step. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to read the full text. When you read that full text, I don't want you to worry about anything but understanding it. Once we've done that, we're going to skim for vocabulary. We're going to see which terms could probably trip me up. And then finally, you're going to interpret. So these are the steps that are specific to sight translation. And you should always apply these 3 steps before you interpret. Okay? Somebody says that's consecutive sight translation with preparation time, but what about simultaneous sight translation without preparation time? Well, it's very important that you ask for preparation time. We have to educate the people that we work with. And our main goal is to be very faithful, to deliver an accurate rendition. If we're not allowed to prepare, your rendition is going to suffer. So you have to educate people as to what you need. So you do have to ask for time to read the text fully and to prepare the vocab. You have to ask for that time. Some people might not be accustomed to it, but simultaneous sight translation is basically going to get you, it shouldn't even exist. That term should be a contradiction in itself, an oxymoron. You shouldn't be doing a sight translation without preparing ahead of time. And you have to educate people so they will respect what you need, because your first responsibility is to being faithful and accurate. And that's what we need. We need to prepare. The only way to doing it is prepare. It's an excellent question. Okay? All right. So moving on. Before beginning your sight translation, you're always going to read the full text. Always. That's always going to be the first thing. Read the full text. Simply put, you can't interpret what you don't understand. Many people skip this step and then their interpretation suffers. And then they're struggling when they move on to step number 2, the actual interpretation. So we're not going to let that happen. We're always going to ask for what we need. We're going to ask for the opportunity to get to know the text. Once you have fully read the text and understood it, then you're going to move on to skimming it to find the difficult vocabulary. Now, it's very important in that first step for you to shut off your inner interpreter. I don't want you thinking, how would I say this? How would I say that? What if I bump into this term? What would I do with this? What would I do with that? We don't want that. We want you to be just focusing on understanding. Your main goal in the first read is just to understand. You shouldn't be worried about anything else at that time. Okay? Somebody is asking in the chat what I mean by simultaneous sight translation. That was a question that someone asked in the chat. They talked about a consecutive sight translation versus simultaneous sight translation. And based on that question, I was saying, I don't think there should be such a thing as simultaneous sight translation. You should always ask for the time you need to read that text fully, to understand that text, just with the goal of understanding, okay? How do you do that? I have trouble shutting off my internal interpreter. It's very important for you to just focus on what you're reading and just try to understand it. If you can visualize what you're reading, even better. But don't think that my next step is going to be interpret. Just worry about the understanding part, okay? Very good. Now, so once you have fully read and understood the text, you're going to move on to skimming it to find the difficult vocab. So here we have a particular text, okay? This would be what the text would look like. The first thing we would do before these things were even in there, let's imagine these things were not marked. The very first thing we would do would be to read it, okay? To read it. You're going to try to focus on reading this text. Once we've read it, then we're going to go ahead and spot the vocab that I don't know how I would render that. But that's the second step. The first step is all about understanding it, okay? And then finally, once you have done that, you've spotted the vocab, you're going to research it. If you're working with our material, of course, you already have the equivalents. We've researched them for you. But if not, you're going to go ahead and research them. How would I say this? How would I say that? How would I say this? All of these things. We're going to go ahead and research it, okay? And once we've researched the vocab, then now we're ready to interpret and voice record if you're studying, okay? So again, 3 steps that are particular for sight. Who can use the chat and tell me step 1? What is step 1 in a sight translation? Who can use the chat? Step 1. What is the first thing we do when we get a text? Read. Very good. Thank you, Brad. I know you guys know it. The first thing you're going to be doing is read. The second thing you're going to be doing once you've finished your full read, you're going to be spotting vocab. And the third thing you're going to be interpreting once you've found that vocab. Okay, so that's the sequence that we're going to follow. Now, when you finally go read, you're going to take advantage of these punctuation marks to make a pause. Okay, there are certain punctuation marks. Who can use the chat to tell me which are the punctuation marks that give us a little opportunity to take a little breather, to take a pause? What are some of the punctuation marks? I don't hear from anybody. I don't know if our chat is working. Okay, so these are some of the punctuation marks that we're going to be using to take a little break. Okay, very good. Commas, periods. Okay, period, semicolon. Okay, cool. Now we have the chat back on. Awesome. So glad to hear from you guys. So these are the different things that allow us to take a breather once we are actually reading it out loud in the third step. If we see a comma, if we see a semicolon, if we see a colon, if we see a period, if we see an exclamation mark, if you see a question mark. And then Tram says something very important. She says natural grammatical pauses. Natural pauses that the text makes. Sometimes we don't have the punctuation mark, but it's a natural pause in the text. We take advantage, and this is what we do. We read the text that follows in silence. So we've come across one of these punctuation marks, we pause, or a natural pause in the text. We pause, we read ahead for the text that follows in silence, and then we begin interpreting out loud when we have a clear idea of the text that's coming up. Okay, so these little commas, these little periods are a great chance for you to shut your mouth, read ahead, find out what's going on. Once you feel like, okay, I know where I'm going, then you go ahead and move on, okay? And as Tram mentioned, the natural pauses. There are things that happen in the text, as Tram was mentioning, that are...
Virginia, your audio went off.
Thanks for letting me know.
All right.
I was talking to myself, you guys. Okay, so you're going to take advantage of the natural pauses in the text, and you're going to stop interpreting and read ahead. So basically, this is something that will help you to remember what text is coming up and do a smooth rendition. Okay, you guys? So this is all beautiful because it's a lot of theory, but now we're going to go ahead and do the practice. So let me share my desktop. And we're going to go into our program.
Are you ready to practice?
Okay, you guys. First, we're going to be doing a little text just as a warm-up. We're going to be doing a little text that is really no vocab involved, but I want you to apply this method to this text. Okay, we're going to be working. This is one of our lab programs. This is our Introduction to Court Interpretation program. And we're going to be working with lab number 5 from that text, from that program. And again, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to read. I don't want you interpreting in your head. This is an opportunity for just reading.
Just wanted to let everyone know, if you can't see the text, just go ahead and enlarge your Zoom feed. If you go to the upper right-hand corner, there should be a enlarge square there, little square.
Yes, and also once you're finished, I'm going to give you time to read, just read. Once you're finished, I want you to use the chat to let me know that you're done with this page. But you're just reading at this stage. Last class, when we worked on consecutive interpretation, we had the father, and now this is the mother's point of view. This is a custody case. Again, you're going to go ahead and read. Don't interpret, just try to understand. When you're ready, use the chat to let me know that you're done.
Can everyone can just get some feedback? Is this legible? Okay, thank you.
Okay, here we go. Use the chat to let me know when you're finished. Okay, you guys, I think we're done, right? I think everyone is finished. All right, so now we're going to move on. First step we did, we read it fully. Let's talk a little bit about this text. Who is writing this text? The mother, very good. What does the mother want? What is her motivation? She wants custody. She's an angry mother. She wants full custody. She wants to keep her son. Very good. And what is the mother? What is the mother's worst worry? What does she not like? She doesn't want her ex. She's bitter. She doesn't want her ex-husband to have the kid full time. She hates the new woman. She hates the influence of the other woman. Okay, Very good. So what is the mother's opinion of the father? He's irresponsible. She has a low opinion of him. Uh, he's not a good father. He's unreliable. He's always late. He's a liar. He's a cheater. Very good. And what is the mother's opinion of her son's new stepmother? He's a bad person. He's terrible. He's a putona. Okay. A liar, a cheater. Very good. Okay. And what does the mother want to happen? What's the outcome that she wants at the end of this case? She wants full custody. What is her biggest concern? What does she think is going to happen to her son if her son lives with his dad? That he's a bad influence, that he'll be unhappy, that he'll turn out like his stepsisters. Okay, so this is exactly what I want you to do when you're reading in the first step of any sight translation. I want you to do what you did with this text. I want you to just understand it. Understand it, and comprehension is the name of the game. Who is this person? What is this person saying? What is the objective? What do they want? What do they not want? What are they trying to get? Okay, so this is the first thing we're going to be doing here. I don't know how to get rid of. Give me one moment because all of a sudden I'm scratching the screen. Okay, good. All right. So now we're going to be doing our what? Once we've read the text fully, use the chat. We read the text, we understood it, we know what's going on. Now what are we going to do? Vocabulary. Good job, you guys. Skim it for vocab. So now I'm going to leave the screen up and I want you guys to skim it for vocab. When you're done with this page, skimming means, oh, I don't know how I would say full time in Spanish or in my other language. I don't know how I would say bills. Anytime you come across a word that you're not too familiar with, I want you to go ahead and see if I think that's the biggest I can go. Let me see if I can go a little bit more. Okay. Is that a
That's
little
pretty big,
better?
but yeah, for those who can't see it clearly, there is that upper right-hand corner in your on your Zoom platform that'll enlarge it further.
Okay, cool. I'm going to leave this text up. I want you to skim it. Whenever you come across a vocab unit you don't know, I want you to write it down on your paper. Write the vocabulary original language, the vocabulary unit, and what do you think you would do? If you don't know what we'll do, we'll talk about it. But I want you to get the vocab out of the way. When you're finished with this, let me know and I'll keep going down and down. So go ahead, spot the vocab. All right, you guys. I think most of you are done. So let's hear some of the vocab. Is there anything you'd like to talk about? Of course, I can only help English, Spanish. I wish I could help with other languages. But for example, grown adult, I would say un adulto hecho y derecho. Okay. Miserable, una persona muy triste. Selfish, egoísta. To top it all off, encima de todo. You can't count on him. No se puede contar con él. To top it all off, y encima de todo, cheap motels, moteles baratos, very good. Para rematar, to top it all off, very good. Stand somebody up, dejarlo plantado, moteluchos, I like that. An affair, una relación extramarital, okay. Para colmo, to top it all off, very good. School plays, obras de teatro escolares. To top it all off, a fin y al cabo, it could work in some context. Amorío, aventura. Gatos negros, I never heard of that. Selfish would be egoísta. Egoísta. Let's see if I missed any other ones. Cheap motel, stand him up, affair, gatos negros. Notebook, cuaderno, very good. Count on, contar con. Spoiled, malcriado. Very good. Good job. Okay, now awful, horrible, terrible. Very good. Relación ilícita, relación extramarital. Get along, llevarse bien. Niñitas malcriadas. Financieramente responsable, financially responsible. Very quiet, muy callado. Good job. Okay. Encima de todo, to top it all off, very good. Madrastra, for stepmother. Very good. Influence, un mal ejemplo. You can also say influencia, but mal ejemplo is very good. Full time, todo el tiempo. Okay? Todo el tiempo. Okay, now we have done the full read. Tiempo completo could work too. Okay. Now we've done the full read. We've done the skimming for the vocab. Now it's time to interpret. So I want you to take your voice recorder. We're going to interpret. Before we interpret, we're going to do a little breathing exercise. And the reason for that is we want our brain to be nice and oxygenated. We want to be nice and calm. So we're just going to take 3 deep breaths. The way we're going to do it is all going to happen through the nose. Nothing is going to be happening through the mouth. So what I want you to do is I want you to, when you inhale, inflate your stomach first, then your chest in 4 beats. Nothing's going to happen quickly. And then when you deflate, your chest goes first and then your tummy. Okay, so let's take 3 full breaths. Inhale the stomach, 1, 2. Inhale the chest, 1, 2. Exhale the chest, 1, 2. Exhale the belly, 1, 2. Next one, here we go. Inhale the stomach, 1, 2. Inhale the chest, 1, 2. Exhale chest, 1, 2. Exhale belly, 1, 2. Last one. Inhale belly, 1, 2. Chest, 1, 2. Exhale chest, 1, 2. Exhale belly, 1, 2. Good job, you guys. Now I want you to take your voice recorder and I want you to interpret this into your second language, okay? When you're done with this page, let me know in the chat and I'll go ahead and move it. Here we go. right, you guys, I think everyone is finished. So now we're going to go ahead and listen to our voice recording. Now we're doing the third step, which is we are checking out how we did. We're listening to our voice recorded rendition as we read along. Because we're pressed for time, we're only going to be doing these 2 paragraphs. We're not going to be doing the full thing because we do have a lot to cover. I want to get to a sight translation that does have specialized vocabulary. So you're going to go ahead and play your voice recording as you read along with the transcript, and you're going to spot anytime you make a mistake. Anytime something's different from the transcript, I want you to pause your recording, take note of what that was, and then keep playing it, okay? When you're ready with these 2 paragraphs, go ahead and use the chat to let me know. All right, you guys. So the first thing we're going to do is some people have requested to take a picture of this screen and the next screen so they can check it on their own. I think that's a wonderful idea. So I'm going to go ahead and give you 3 seconds to take a screenshot of this. Get your phones ready or whatever it is you need to do. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. We're going to move on. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. We're going to move on. 3, 2, 1. Moving on. 3, 2, 1. Good job. I'm so happy you guys asked to do that on your own. That's beautiful that you guys want to check your full work. Okay, now let's see in the chat. How did you guys do? How did you feel? How did it work out? How was the flow? Pretty good? Good. Did you feel comfortable with the idea, slow but good? Yes, the vocabulary is easy, but the most important thing is we get into the structure, whether we're studying or not. This is a 3-step method to do sight translation. First, read. Read and understand. Bear in mind that the only way you're going to be able to interpret this text is if you understand it. Some people are so pressed for time that they think, it's okay, I'll do it on the go. I bet you your interpretation is going to suffer and your accuracy is going to suffer tremendously, and your flow, you're going to sound very unprofessional if you don't read the text first. So we first have to read the text. Then we spot tricky vocab, we work it out, and then we interpret. That's the sequence I want you to always follow when you're doing any sight translation, whether you're studying for it or whether you're doing it in a professional context. And ask for what you need. Don't let people rush you. The only way you can be accountable for a faithful rendition is if you ask for the time that you need to first read the text. Okay? Being aware of the punctuation helped. That's awesome. Okay. All right. What tone of voice would you recommend? It's very important for you to try to emulate the emotional tone of the text. I don't know if you've noticed with the way people write text messages, the way people write emails, there's a tone of voice embedded in there. That's what makes an author great, that they have a quick tone of voice, or an intuitive tone of voice, or a hoodlum tone of voice. So what a text does have a tone of voice. Okay, a text has its own voice. So you want to respect that voice. So for example, if I were to do this, I'm just going to render it into English now. Look at the difference between this. I know that the best thing for my son is to continue living with me, versus I know that the best thing for my son is to continue living with me. Do you understand how in the second one, what's happening in the second one? What difference did you hear in the second one versus in the first one? The emphasis, the calm, the tone. I'm respecting the tone. If this were a letter written to a judge, the mother will definitely not be saying, I know that the best thing for my son is to continue living with me. The mother would be pleading, I know that the best thing for my son is to continue living with me. And check out how after son, there's a natural pause. No period, no comma, no semicolon, no exclamation mark, no question mark, but we can feel a natural pause here. I know that the best thing for my son is to continue living with me. So this is the opportunity when we get here to read a little bit ahead. When we get here, read a little bit ahead, and then we interpret once we're sure. Okay?
Virginia, can
Beautiful.
you help me? How would you do this one? Get out of here.
The New York, get out of here. Okay, very good. All right, you guys. So that's what I want you to do. Okay. Again, I want you to get confused between the three-step method to study and the three-step method to sight translate. The three-step method to study is first, let me go ahead and take off this share so you can see me. Okay. The three-step method to study is first you learn the vocab, then you do the interpretation, and then you listen to yourself while you compare it to the written transcript. That's to study. Now we're talking about the three-step method to sight translate. That's even when you're in court, even when you're in front of a doctor, when you're doing an IPE, IPE, is that what I'm, the independent IEP, thank you. I haven't done those in a while for educational interpreters. When you're in the field and you have a text in front of you, you're going to follow these three steps. And that's separate from the three-step method of interpreting. The three steps that you do when you're doing a sight translation in any context is read fully, comprehension, comprehension, comprehension. Then skim for vocab. If you need to research the vocab, and then go ahead and interpret following the sequence of you set the pace. You don't have to rush. Anytime you see a period, a colon, a semicolon, any exclamation mark, question mark, or a natural pause, stop, read a little bit ahead, get your bearings, and then move on. Okay? Individualized education plan. Yes, I haven't done those in a while. I used to do those in New York. Okay, you guys. Now we're going to move on to something that the three-step method actually needs. Okay, here we go. So we're going to talk about blind runs. So what happens is if you follow Interpretrain's three-step method, and again, when I'm talking about Interpretrain's three-step method that works with any mode of interpretation is vocabulary, interpret, evaluate, okay? What happens if you follow that method is that you might get spoiled. And you might, oh, I'm hearing a beep sound. Is somebody unmuted? I'm hearing
That's
a beep
very
sound.
unpleasant. I'm working on it.
Thank you, Brad. So if you have ever done the three-step method and you don't do a blind run, which is what we're going to talk about next, you're going to get spoiled. Who can tell me how just doing vocabulary, interpretation, evaluation is going to spoil you? Who can use the chat and tell me if I stick to first vocabulary, second interpretation, and third evaluation, how is that going to put me at a disadvantage when I take a test? Use the chat to let me know. I don't know if our chat is working again. You will not be prepared when you do not have time to look it up. Very good. The element of surprise. You don't get to research vocab. Very good, you guys. So if you apply the three-step method without doing what I call a blind run, you're going to get spoiled. And when you get to a test or in real life, you get to a word that you don't know, whether it's a sight translation or when you're listening to do consecutive or simul, you are not going to be able to improvise if you have to in a test, because in real life you should stop and ask for a clarification or time to research. But in a test, you're not going to be able to improvise because you got spoiled. First, I learn the vocab ahead of time. Then I do my interpretation. Then I do my evaluation. You're going to get spoiled and you're not going to know what to do to improvise in a test. So before the three-step method, we're going to add what is called the blind run. That means that you're interpreting without learning the vocabulary ahead of time, which is what most people do. Let's be honest. Most people just jump in there. They don't know the vocab. They jump in. Great. It's great for learning how to improvise, but it doesn't let you take every last drop out of that practice. So how do we get the best of two worlds? How do we learn to improvise and get the best out of the practice? We do the three-step method preceded by a blind run. So interpreting without learning the vocabulary ahead of time is what we call a blind run. Here's somebody running with a blindfold. It's great for your training because it prepares you to handle the unexpected. Being able to handle unforeseen terms is crucial when taking a test. It allows you not to freeze, to keep interpreting no matter what comes your way. So again, when we're studying, this is not when you're working in real life. We're talking about studying. When you're studying, before applying the three-step method, you're going to do a blind run. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. So here we go. Let me share my desktop. Now you guys are going to do something that is very scary to many of you, but I want you to bear with me. I want you to go ahead and do a blind run. I want you to do this vocab, this practice, without knowing anything ahead of time. So I'm going to share with you one of our labs, if I can get out of here. Let's see how I can get out of here. Why doesn't this want to help here? Here we go. Beautiful. Awesome. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to a practice with specialized chord vocabulary, and you guys are going to jump blindly. You're just going to interpret and do the best that you can, and pray to God that you do the best that you can. I do want you to read the text first, okay?
Virginia, are you bringing up the text?
Yes, but first I want to bring it up and then I'll share it.
Okay, because we don't see it yet.
Okay, hopefully you will after this. Here we go. Beautiful. Okay, so this is the text. And even when we're doing a blind run, we want to understand the text first. Doesn't mean the blind run, you don't read the text ahead of time. No, I want you to read the text to understand it. I don't want you to worry about how am I going to interpret this? How am I going to interpret that? First, you want to know who is writing this. What do they want? What do they hate? What are they hoping for? What are their motives? The typical questions of a journalist. Who, what, where, when, why. That's what I want you thinking about. When you're finished reading this, I want you to go ahead and use the chat. Let me know you're ready for the next screen. Just reading for comprehension, and then we're going to move on to the actual interpretation. Okay, you guys? Here we go. Read and let me know when you're done. Read for comprehension. All right, you guys. So we did our first read, and that's always the first step. If there's anything I want you to take away from today, is that the first thing you do is to read to understand. That's it. No matter what you're doing, read to understand. Okay? Now we're going to jump blindly into our blind run. This is the name of the game. This is game time. I want you to take your voice recorder, get it ready to go, and I want you to go ahead and interpret it. Do the best you can. If you don't know a word, since we're studying, you don't have to ask for time for anything. You just skip it, or you do the best you can, or you say it in the original language and you move on. What we want to do is we want to get into the flow of taking advantage of the commas, the periods, the natural pauses, exclamation marks, question marks to read ahead, and just try to get into a flow. Okay. When you're done with the first part, let me know and we'll move on to the second part. This time is just about blind run. We'll do the best we can. Okay. Ready, set, go. All right, you guys, good job. Okay, now before we grade our performance, I do want to get up and do a little stretchity stretch because it has been an hour that we've been sitting down. So it's never good for you to be sitting down for such a long time. So I'm going to stop my share. I want everybody to get up and stretch. Oh, good job. We're going to do 3 more, bringing up the arms and then down. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Now we're going to do the neck. We're going to do 3 circles to the right. Now we're going to do the left. Oops, my headphones are coming off. Go ahead and keep your circles going, even though the teacher's stuck. Very good. Now we're going to do the shoulders. Shoulders go up as we inhale, down as we exhale. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to do our waist. If you're like me, you're going to hear a snap, crackle, pop. 1, 2. Did you guys hear that? 3. And now the other side. 1, 2, 3. Very good. And now we're going to go ahead and do our knees. So you just basically go like this. I don't mean this to be a burlesque show. Here we go. You do knee circles to one side. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the other side. 1, 2, 3. And then we do the other one. 1, 2, 3. And then 1, 2, 3. Finally, we're going to do our ankles. We're going to move the ankle to one side. Circles. 1, 2, 3. Other side. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to do wrists, little wrist circles. Very good, you guys. Good job. Now, I want you to listen to your interpretation as you read the text. Of course, when you're done with a specific one, let me see what you guys are saying in the chat. Oh, somebody's saying that I moved a little too fast. Okay, sorry about that. It's hard to coordinate with so many people telling me that they're done. Okay, don't worry about it. We're gonna do this again with preparing for vocab. So here we go. I want you to go ahead and listen to your voice recorded interpretation as you follow along here. Anytime you see a discrepancy, a difference between what's written down and what you did, take note of it. When you're done, let me know. It's hard for me to coordinate for everybody. I think we got some scratches on the page. I don't know why. when we're done, go ahead and let me know that you're done. Okay, here we go. All right, you guys. I think most of you are done. Don't despair if your rhythm is different from the rest of the group. The most important thing as an interpreter is that you take the time you need to set your own pace, because the most important objective as an interpreter is to be accurate. So if you need to take a little longer, you take a little longer. The beautiful thing about sight translation is that you set the pace. There's nobody rushing you. So for those of you who want to do this in a more thorough fashion, and you will have the video recording, you're going to be able to go ahead and do it until you feel comfortable. You're going to be able to watch the video again and do each exercise and pause the screen whenever you need to get it done right. Okay? So what I love about business runs, what I love about blind runs is that you identify the tricky vocab. So once you go into our 3-step program, you know exactly what you got to do to get back to which vocabulary you need to really get back to and focus on. It gives you a very clear idea of where your difficulties lie. So I'm going to go ahead and share. Now we're going to move into our 3-step program. I'm going to make sure that I share this with you. This is the moment that if we were teaching a live course, the teacher would be heading over to her desk to get that book she wants to show you. Okay, so let me go ahead and share this with you. Here we go. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Beautiful. So now here we are in our program. Here we are with the step 1 vocabulary. Of course, if you were doing this on your own, you would research these terms and you would drill them by creating these tools. I want to focus on our target practice because it lets you focus on exactly those terms that you're not sure about. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to reveal all these guys, and I want you guys to focus on those terms that you're not so crazy about how you did. I want you to just look at these terms. If you need to write it down, write it down. When you guys are ready and you feel comfortable with these terms, let me know in the chat. But now it's the time to become familiar with the terms that you felt you weren't so hot with. Here we go. Use the chat to let me know when you're done with this screen. Okay, so now we have to drill the vocab. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to take a screenshot of these first 8 terms. Take a screenshot because we're going to drill these terms. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. You should have a screenshot of this. We're moving on. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Get your screenshot. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Okay, good job, you guys. Now we're going to drill that vocab. So what I want you to do is I want you to look at your screenshots, look at any term that you're not familiar with, any term that you think is going to cause you trouble. Now we're going to move on to the interpretation, so we don't want these terms to be an issue. I want you to, if you have Post-it notes, I want you to go ahead and take one per word that you don't know, per scoring unit, per vocabulary unit. Go ahead and fold over the sticky part, write down the term on the front and one target equivalent on the back. If your language combination is not English Spanish, I want you to go ahead and research that term and then put the term on the back. So on
Virginia,
the front.
I'm just sorry to interrupt you. Some folks are asking, where is this in our program? This is the introductory program?
Yes, this is the
Okay.
Introduction to Legal Interpretation program.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I want you guys to go ahead and write the term on the front of the sticky note. And as I said, you're going to fold over the sticky part so they no longer sticks. And then in the back, you're going to write the target language equivalent. If you don't speak Spanish, then you're going to go ahead and research that term and you're going to write it on the back. So using the screenshots that you took, I want you to look over those terms. Now you know, because you heard yourself from the blind run, you know which terms tripped you up. So now you're going to get your terms that trip you up and put them on the front, source language, on the back, target language. Okay? When you're finished with this, use the chat to let me know and we'll move on to the interpretation. Go ahead. All right, you guys, I think that should be enough. I think you should be done. So now we're going to go into the actual interpretation. Now we know the vocab. Now we feel comfortable with this stuff. So it's time to go ahead and move on. Here we go. Now it's time to interpret. So I'm going to go ahead and have the text ready for you. Here we go. Okay. We've done step 1. Let me move on to step 2. First, I want to share. Here we go. So we had all these different options, all these drilling options for step 1. Now we're moving to the interpretation, but now you know the vocab. So let me go ahead and give you a version that is a little bit. Here we go. So now it's the real deal. I want you to interpret as if you were in a test, okay? Go ahead and get your voice recorder ready. Go ahead and let's do a 2 little breathing exercise, 2 little breaths, deep breaths, and then we're going to get started. You're going to voice record when you're done with a page. Let me know. Be patient with those that are a little slower. And here we go. Deep breath in through the stomach, the chest. Now exhale. Last one, it's all happening through the nose. Inhale the belly, then the chest. Exhale. Go ahead and voice record as you interpret this text. Now you have the vocab. Use the chat to let me know when you're done. All right, you guys, I want you to go ahead and use the chat. Tell me know how you did. How was it? Good? Thoughtfulness could be detallista. Very good. You felt good, much better, much more comfortable, much better. Better than the first run, better than the blind run. Very good. Okay, you guys. Now it's time to correct your work. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and go into the third step, which is actually the evaluation. Now, this step is a little challenging. If you were taking our courses, of course, you would be able to go directly and go at your own pace. But because you're not taking our courses, you're going to have to be a little generous with others that are a little slower. I'm going to go ahead and go to the third step. And I want you to, again, as I said, to be very generous with those of you who are a little slower. And there's nothing wrong with being slower. It just means that you're taking your time to get it right. And in sight translation, it's not a matter of speed. You set the speed. So I want you to go ahead, play your recording as you follow along with the transcript. I'm going to go ahead when I see a scoring unit, I'm going to click on it and I want you to correct each scoring unit. So you're going to take a pen and you're going to write down number 1, I got it right or I got it wrong. Actually, I only want you to write down the ones you got wrong. Don't worry about the ones you got right. Okay? Can everybody see the screen?
Uh, Virginia, we right now you haven't shared yet,
Oh, okay.
but I'm still on the breathing exercises, so I'm good. Very relaxed.
Okay. Everybody's nice and
Yeah,
relaxed.
all
They
right,
can't
we
see
see
the
it now.
screen. Okay. Now
So just go full screen.
we're going full screen. You're going to play your recording, compare it to this text. I'm going to try to go ahead and stop when I see a scoring unit. I want you to grade it. Only if you got it wrong, write it down. If you didn't get it wrong, don't worry about it. Here we go. All right, you guys. I think somebody was saying they didn't get contractual commitments. So here we go. Compromiso contractual, obligación por un contrato o convenio contractual. Okay. Let me see what else we got going on the chat. Overall. Okay, let's find overall. I know this was quick. I want you guys to do this on your own. You're going to have the video, so you're going to be able to pause it whenever you need to. Overall is 13. Here we go. Overall, en todo sentido. Okay, very good. On behalf of, let's go to on behalf of. On behalf of, de parte de, por parte de, en nombre de. Okay. At, arroba. Let's go back to at. Oops. Here we go. Arroba. Very good, you guys. And we have sincerely, atentamente. Okay. En general is good for overall. That works as well. Okay. En general. Do we have anything else that didn't get? Okay. Everybody's good? Peaceful. Okay, I was going really fast. I thought I was going nice and slow, but I was not, you guys. So that's what I want you to use the video when you get it and go at your own pace, pause it when you need it. Peaceful. Where do we have peaceful? Oh, peaceful is not a scoring unit, but pacífico. Una persona pacífica would be peaceful. Very good. Accommodate me would be, in this context, alojar. Hospedar, alojar, ofrecer alojamiento, dar alojo. Okay. Everyone he meets, todo el mundo que él conoce. Okay. For kind, I had amable. That's fine. If you notice in our system, you have the option to mark it correct, incorrect, or research. So if you said something that doesn't appear listed here, you can mark it research and the system will keep tally of it. Okay. Awesome, you guys. Good job. Now it's time to do the math. So as you can tell, we have a total of 21 scoring units. Oh, a favor de, we already had a favor de, didn't we? Here we go. On behalf of. De parte de, por parte de, nombre de. A favor de might work. We might want to research that. Okay, good job. So now it's time to do the math so we can get an actual scoring unit. We have a total of 21 scoring units. I want you to count how many you got wrong and divide that number into 21. Well, if you can actually do the math like this, we're going to count how many we got wrong, subtract that from 21. So let's say I got 4 wrong. So we say 21 minus 4 is 17. Is that right? 17? Okay. And then we do 17 divided into 21. So I want to hear some scores. I want you guys to have a numerical score. This is time for the objective score. I want to hear some scores.
85, 90.
Ooh, good job. 80. As long as
80.
you get above 80, you can move on. 80 or more, move on. 90,
Oh, yeah.
90.
What do you move on to?
You move on to the next practice.
Oh.
92, 85. Good job. Good job. We have a lot of passing scores. If you didn't get a passing score, that's okay. Just a reminder, our system, we mark them all correct. So we got a 100%. If you're working with our material, it'll score them automatically for you. So you're going to get a score. You're going to put the title of the lab. I think this was our referral. Oops, that's terrible. I think it was a
reference. Yeah.
Reference letter. And these are some of the things to take into account. The things that are going to be scored in those, how many times we did this lab? I think we did it a total of 3. This was a site lab. And it's very important for you guys to take into account that these are the things that an evaluation will take into account. Your overall accuracy from 1 to 10, not just the scoring units, how complete you were. Did you sound natural? Did you do the good syntactic and grammatical adaptations that you needed to do? Were you hesitating or were you fluid? Did you correct yourself smoothly? Again, what do we say? What do we say when we make a mistake and we need to correct ourselves? 2 words. What are those words? When we make a mistake, 2 words we use. Interpreter correction. Good job, Leda. Interpreter
Nice.
correction. So
Interpreter.
did you do that smoothly? Let's say I did that smoothly. Were you poker voice? Did you sound assertive? Let's say we did. Was your volume good? Let me go scroll down a little bit because I'm having trouble seeing. Get some screens out of the way here, you guys. Okay. How was you need to sound assertive. Even if you're not sure, you need to sound like you are. How was your pace? Did you take it nice and slow? How was your volume? And our lowest score that we gave ourselves was terms that sound natural. So our comment would be focus on sounding natural, not maternal, natural. Very good. And then we submit it. If you're working with our materials, you would get a certificate of completion like this. It has your self-evaluation score in each one of the elements that you scored yourself, and it has your vocabulary score. You can download it as a PDF file, and then you can print it so you can keep track. And this is what it would look like. You would get reference letter, and this is what it would look like. It would tell you how many times you did the lab, what your vocabulary unit was, score was, all of these things. Okay, so this is the way it works if you worked with our material. If you didn't work with our material, I don't want you to get a score anyway. Okay, you guys, awesome work. Great job. Great job. Okay, so for those of you who felt a little rushed, I know it's hard to get everyone when we have different people to get everyone's pace. So I don't want you to despair. You can watch this video again and slow it down where you need to. The only point I want to make before we move on, because we have a treat for you guys today, which is we have Tony Valle talking to you guys about the team approach. But before we get to that, what I want you to take from this session is if you do a site translation and you go ahead and do, whether you're studying and you do first vocabulary, then interpretation, and then evaluation, or if you're in real life, you're going to be doing reading first, then you're going to go ahead and skim it for vocab, and then you're going to head and interpret. Show must go on, so you go on no matter what happens. If you make a mistake, you say interpreter correction, correct yourself and move on. And you're going to make sure that you use the pauses, the periods, and all that to read a little bit ahead and then move on, okay? No matter what you're doing, I want you to be very aware that you set your own pace, okay? You're the one who sets your own pace, so don't rush it, okay? If you want to study further with the material that we've given you today, you're going to have the video. You can pause it and go ahead and study as you like, all right? Really awesome job, you guys. Now, we have an amazing treat for you guys today. We have Tony Valle. Tony is a medical and court interpreter. And we met Tony about 3 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago. And when we first met him, he was just starting out as an interpreter. He's become certified in different fields. But not only has he done that, he's brought people along with him. He's created a team-based approach. I can't emphasize enough how important in this field it is for you to study with others. When you study with others, you have more commitment, you have more motivation, you get a perspective of an outsider, you can do teamwork and help each other out with different things. So if you want to succeed to pass your tests, I definitely recommend that you have a team-based approach. And nobody better to tell us about that than Tony. Now, Tony also has a Facebook group, which is called the Resource Center for Certified Interpreters. I don't know if Brad can go ahead and share it in the chat. The Resource Centers for Certified Interpreters is constantly, as the name indicates, sharing resources for you guys to study and get to the next level. So it is really a treat to have Tony with us today. He's helped countless people become certified with his team-based approach, and we're so excited to be able to share his knowledge with you guys today. Go ahead, Tony, take it away.
Wow. Well, Virginia, can everyone hear me? Thank you so much for this opportunity. And since you like to use showbiz terms, I'm going to add one more. You are a hard act to follow. So, but I'm going to do my best here. And
oh no, Tony, you got a lot to share. Don't undersell yourself.
And
So
Tony, we hear you. We hear you great.
All right, terrific. All right, so just having said that, I'm going to now share my screen. And I want to just start by just saying thank you to Brad and Virginia and Team Interpretrain, because you make learning fun. You have the gift of encouragement, and boy, at this time, we really do need encouraging. And there's no one better than you to do this. So, and we're just so grateful to you. So as Virginia mentioned, I met them about 3 years ago during a note-taking workshop that I set up for my team. So they've been able then during this time to see me and my team members go from struggle to success as 10 of my colleagues achieved their certification goals while working with me on a team. And so I've worked in teams for the past 3 years to achieve all of my certification goals. And I'm currently working on a team right now for federal certification, our federal exam vanquishers team. So just so these are my credentials, if you will. In 2017, I became a state certified interpreter, 2018 medical certified interpreter. 2019, I took the defense language proficiency test, scoring in the highest percentile for that. In 2020, I plan to take the written exam, and then the written federal exam, and then 2021, the oral federal exam. I think it's very important to always have goals that we're wanting to achieve. I also have a bachelor's degree in English from Cal State San Marcos. You have my email address here, and then Virginia was kind enough to mention the Resource Center. And by the way, we reached 1,600 members today, something that I'm very thrilled about, just to see that level of participation on the Resource Center. So this is just simply going to be yes.
Just share your presentation with us.
Oh, I am so sorry. I thought I had already done that.
You're a very handsome man, but I want to see those slides.
Okay, all right. I know how to share. And let's see. Okay.
All right, it's coming up.
All right, and then we're going to go from beginning. Okay, so I covered that.
Looks good.
Okay, so the team-based approach to achieving certification goals, and there are 3 basic methods that I've been able to identify: the lone soldier, dynamic duo, and then the team-based approach. So, and by the way, too, this is something that could help you now. It could help you in the future, or this could help someone that you know who is struggling to achieve their certification goals. Another thing is that I'll be asking questions, so if you would please simply respond in the chat. I'd be grateful to you, and I'm going to be speaking for another 10 minutes or so on this team-based approach. All right, so to start with then, we've got the lone soldier approach, and this is where everyone starts, and this is our basic training period. This is our boot camp phase. This is the phase in which we are learning the basics of sight, simultaneous, consecutive, as well as note-taking skills to get us prepared to enter into exam preparation mode. And I want to start by asking you, how many of you can relate to making stacks and stacks of 3x5 index flashcards? How many of you have shoe boxes full of these index flashcards, the 3x5s, right? That's what I learned on. Or how many of you can recall looking at a script for a sight or a consecutive and then having to look up just a bunch of words and phrases, never knowing exactly if this was the right interpretation? Or as a lone soldier, how many of you can relate to the feeling of just hitting a wall during your own self-study as a lone soldier? Well, the benefit that I didn't have was the materials that Virginia Valencia has developed here that you've had a chance to look at now. This is a lab-based program that's self-contained, where you've got scripts, you have a key of the vocabulary terms, you've got scoring units, And you have such impressive evaluation tools that are really designed to not only get you through this lone soldier phase, but all the way up through your state or even federal certification. Now, let me ask you this though. What happens if you prepare for a certification exam as a lone soldier and you don't pass the exam? Are you at that point going to raise the white flag of surrender? Well, I hope not, but how many of us know an interpreter who has given up after failing a certification exam once, twice, or even multiple times? Now, the thing is that I know many lone soldiers who never even tried any one of the other two methods after failing an exam. And I believe in this saying very much that goes like this, that if you want something that you've never had, you have got to be willing to do something that you've never done. So let's look at the next approach, the dynamic duo. And why do I call it dynamic duo? Because I'm convinced that those who like the study buddy approach are like Robin, who are trying to find their perfect Batman. And what do I mean by that? They want to find a partner who complements their skill set, whose language dominance is the mirror opposite of their own, who accommodates their schedule, is in sync with their own unique learning style. And one of the primary benefits of the dynamic duo is that you've got someone there to give you feedback. And that's, we've seen how critically important that is. Someone to listen to your rendition and let you know if you are adding, or if you're omitting, or if you're backtracking, or if you've got these verbal pauses. And it's great to have the perspective, and it's great to be able to listen to a rendition as well and see how that compares to your own rendition. However, there is just a weakness or liability for the dynamic duo, and that is that you are completely vulnerable because you're only counting on one person to see you all the way through to exam day and beyond. So my question for you is this. So what if you combine the best of the lone soldier and dynamic duo method and combine them to create a team-based approach? Right off the bat, with a team-based approach, you not only have one partner that you're relying on, you've got 4 team partners, each with different strengths, with different abilities, with different talents that they bring to the table to make you stronger and to make the team stronger. I've experienced myself a synergy that happens on a team that raises everyone's game. And it happens when you're all focused on achieving one mission, which is certification. And it keeps your accountability level high, your motivation, your focus, and your intensity high for that critical 90-day period heading into an exam certification day. Having multiple practice partners also means that you have more opportunities to work with a partner who can meet you when you're ready and available. It could be morning, afternoon, or evening. Now, just looking at that as a starting point, then how does this all happen? Ultimately, you have got to plan for success. When you're signing up for the team-based approach, this is what you're signing up for. You are signing up for weekly team meetings, let's say on a Sunday, with a plan worked out for the weeks and this is all happening 90 days before your exam day. So you're deciding on one site, one simultaneous, and one consecutive that you're going to be working on together. Virginia spent a lot of time focusing on the importance of reviewing the documents first, identifying any troublesome vocabulary words. So you can do that during that weekly team meeting, right? And then what you're doing is that you are focused on scheduling your team practices with individual partners, at least 3 per week. And you can set up practice sessions with 1 or 2 partners. And the way that it would work is this. Let's say we decided to work on a consecutive, and I reached out to Bob and Cindy, and I agreed to meet with them on Tuesday. So Bob and Cindy then would meet me via Zoom. I would deliver a rendition. Bob and Cindy listen to my rendition, then they give me feedback, and then Bob has a chance to render, and then Cindy has a chance to render. What happens is that you're learning on every exchange, whether you're rendering and receiving feedback or you're giving feedback, you're continually learning from your team partners. On your own, you are doing daily simultaneous drills. So you're still here in lone soldier mode. Now, the beauty of a team, though, is that you can make recordings of those and exchange those with your team members to get feedback. On your own, you're doing daily vocabulary drills because your goal here is to work on refining your rendition when you meet your team partners. You don't want to be struggling and stumbling through a rendition when you meet with them. So you want to prepare to do your best when you meet with them. And then you are tracking all of these activities with a planner. I can't emphasize how important it is to have a 90-day plan and a weekly plan as well. And so that happens with a planner. And then I want to also say that you should have a mock exam at least 4 weeks prior to exam day. And there you just would need to have somebody to help administer that. And we can talk about that a little bit more later as well. All right, so at this point you're saying, okay, Tony, this team-based approach sounds great. So now what? Well, here's the good news. You can create your team on your own. You identify 4 study partners, and you just would simply set it up and just learn by trial and error, which is what I had to do. And I learned, of course, so much from my team members. Or you can do this. You can take advantage of the fact that I have spent the last 3 years of my life working in a team-based approach, achieving my goals and seeing 10 of my colleagues achieve theirs. And you can send me an email with the following details. And it's critically important that you include all of these details in your correspondence: your name, your language combination, what's your A language and your B language, and it doesn't matter what language combination it is. Some details about your interpreter training, your background and your experience. Did you complete a 1-year program somewhere? If so, where? Are you currently working as an interpreter? If so, for how long? Anything that's relevant to your experience. The type of test that you're preparing for, your location as well, your geographic location. And then finally, your availability for weekly team sessions and team practices throughout the week. Simply stated, you really can't participate as an effective team member if you're not going to be available for weekly team sessions. And then, like I say, 3 team practices with your partners. And all of these sessions last about 2 hours. So just know in advance that if you cannot commit to that, then it would be better for you to do the a lone soldier approach.
And Tony, we'll send out your email in the follow-up in case anyone missed that.
Okay. Okay, terrific. And with that, thank you so much, Brad. With that in mind, if everybody wants to take out their cell phone now and take a picture of this, because you've got my contact information on here. My name, Tony Valle, email tbacoach1@gmail.com. And then, of course, you know where to find me on the Facebook forum. And the Resource Center is focused and has been focused on encouraging colleagues to achieve certification goals. That's been my passion from the get-go. I wanted to create a place where people can go to find out about classes, teachers, anything that can help and to encourage them to achieve their certification goals. And then what I plan to do is this. I know it's not possible to cover every detail about the team-based approach, so I plan to do a follow-up Zoom meeting Wednesday, April the 29th at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we'll have an opportunity to go review the team-based approach, answer any questions, and then decide, you know, what to do from there. Now, in closing, I want to focus on this. And the question that I want to ask each and every one of you, and I want to ask you, please, to spend time today thinking about answering this question for yourself. What is your passion? Because ultimately, if you know what your passion is, you can take it to the next step to find out what your purpose is. Now, just to inspire some thought about this, I want to share this story with you. In the spring of last year, I coached a team of 4 to prepare for the spring state exam, and 2 of those 4 passed the state exam. One of those interpreters continued to work at her full-time job outside of interpreting because she's a single mom with a young child and she needs a full-time job with benefits. So fast forward a year later, she reaches out to me and tells me that she has an opportunity to interview for a full-time position in the courts. And she asked if I would be willing to coach her on her interviewing skills. And of course I said yes. Now, you should know that English is her second language. She's held the same job for 15 years, so she's simply not used to going on formal job interviews. Her anxiety level regarding interview was extremely high. This was a high stakes interview for her. So we set up 4 2-hour sessions. we worked on giving her a simple way for her to frame her answers each and every time for each question, and working on developing her confidence. Now, she interviewed and just last week accepted an offer for that full-time position as a court interpreter at one of the courts here in Southern California. And not only that, but she's going to be starting together with one of my team colleagues who was instrumental in helping me and my team members achieve our state certification. So 2 people starting at the same time, all part of my team and well-versed in the team-based approach. So this job represents a culmination of everything that they both have invested so much in achieving for the past several years now. There is nothing that I have done that has filled me with more of a sense of purpose than coaching and working with colleagues like them. I have found my passion and my purpose, and I would be honored to help you achieve your goals. So today, I'm planting my flag as a coach of the team-based approach to achieving goals. So I'm I have up on the screen here just my personal timeline in case you want to see what it is that I've done or am doing. And once again, I want to thank Brad, Virginia, Team Interpretrain for this opportunity. I want to thank each and every one of you for giving me this opportunity to introduce myself to you as well. And I look forward to seeing at least a good number of you during that follow-up meeting on Zoom next week. So with that said, I will stop sharing now. And once again, whoops, thanks to Brad and Virginia.
Thank you, Tony, so much for sharing that. Virginia, are you with us?
Yes, can everybody hear me and see me?
I can hear you and I see Tony. Let's see. It's odd to hear your voice and see Tony's face. That's interesting.
Well, you
Wow.
guys,
Oh, here, okay, yep.
the
That
one
was
thing,
awesome.
that was
Thank you,
so good, Tony. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I can definitely recommend the team-based approach. If you've studied for an exam on your own, you know how hard it is to keep your commitment, to know what your weak areas are, to have a really strategic way to go about it. And Tony's approach is definitely effective. So I definitely recommend you check it out. Thank you so much, Tony.
And Tony,
you.
some folks on the chat were asking if we could share that presentation in an email as well. Is that possible?
Yeah, of course. I'd be happy to
Okay.
share it. Yeah.
All right.
So the last 2 things I want to do, thank you so much, Tony, for sharing. There's so many of you who are going to benefit. If you go ahead and join Tony, you'll see the benefits. You will reap the benefits, I promise. We only have 1 minute left, so I'm going to try to go very, very quickly. I want you guys to take a screenshot of this. I'm going to share my, my screen. And let me see how I can share my screen. Oh, all of a sudden I can't see how to share my screen. I'm gonna need Brad's help, I think, to get back to screen sharing mode. Here we go. Brad says, oops. Okay, let me cancel this. Let me share my screen. Let me continue. Let me do my desktop. Okay, I want you guys to take these 2 pictures. This is what you should be doing if you have if you're going to be doing a site translation in any field in the real world. Take a screenshot of this. You're going to be doing step 1, reading the full text. Step 2, skimming for vocab. Step 3, interpreting. Okay, so that's that. And then there is this other screen I want to share with you guys. Here we go. If you're going to be studying, this is the sequence I want you to follow. Take a screenshot. First, vocabulary. Secondly, interpretation. And thirdly, evaluation. You guys have been so awesome. I am so blessed to be able to be with you here today. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your energy. The last thing I want to do in closing is, I know this is a really challenging time. Some of us are facing health challenges. Others are facing financial challenges. Others might be facing emotional challenges. This is really hard. I have to say that sometimes I myself find, that it becomes overwhelming. But I also want us to take a little moment to be aware of our blessings. So I want you to use the chat and tell me what you're grateful for. And I will start. I'm grateful for 3 things. First of all, I'm grateful for my health. Secondly, I'm grateful for Brad and my family and those loved ones that are near me that are supporting me and helping me get through this. And finally, I'm blessed to be here and to be able to share with you guys and to be able to have receptive people who want to learn. So those are my 3 blessings. Let's go ahead and look at the chat, see some of the blessings that we see. Some of the beautiful blessings. Sometimes we're so focused on the hardships, my health, my husband, my pets, my friends. Thankful for kind people like you and Brad. Aw, grateful for everybody's okay, my savings, grateful for my family, this class. Oh, that's awesome. My kids, my community of colleagues, my family, for everything, for being present for this class, for this connection, for my puppy. Oh, I love my dog too. For all your loved ones that are safe, for life. There's always hope. Oh, that's beautiful, you guys. What a beautiful, beautiful thing. Grateful for my health, my home, my food. Oh, that's another thing. Many of us have food. Some of us might not. Um, I want you to carry this sense of gratitude with you when you're going through hard times. And some of us, as I mentioned, are going through much harder time than others. So it's hard. But I want you to bear in mind that this is not going to go on forever. This will end. I want you to be able to tap into the resources that you have if you need help. And I want you to take good care of yourself. This is not the time to challenge yourself and be hard on yourself. If you're somebody who's going through financial struggles or health struggles or any type of struggle that is more difficult than it was for you before, this is the time to drink a lot of water. This is the time to rest. This is the time to be good to yourself, to be generous with yourself and not demand more of yourself. If you're one of those people that find yourself with extra time and your finances are in order, then this might be a great opportunity. Hey, you have a bunch of extra time you can study. Thank you so much for joining us. I really loved the opportunity to share with you. Next week will be our last session and we'll be talking about how to interpret on your own. Of course, if you want to train with our program, that's great, but we know this is a hard time for many of you, so we want to give you the tools to study on your own. We're going to give you free resources and we're going to show you the method, how to apply it to free resources. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Take very good care of yourself. Be generous with yourself, and I hope to see you next week.
Thank you, everyone.
Right.
Goodbye, everyone.
Virginia, is it okay? And Brad, is it okay if I give you a call in a few?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Talk to you later. Bye, everyone.